Hey everyone, just wanted to share a bit my own version of the Doedre doing build. Um, I've made a few changes compared to maybe what you've seen around. I've tried to mainly fix the single target damage because this is what is the most lacking. Uh, the game isn't balanced well for most build, and you end up one-shotting most mobs in normal maps, no matter what the modifiers are. So inevitably, the only challenge are the elites, the bosses, and of course the big bosses like Zesht and King of the Mist and whatever. So for this setup, I went with the normal Remnant Potency and Harmonic Remnant in Life Remnant. It's like standard Blood Mage setup. Then in Despair, I went for Doedre's Undoing, of course, Life Tap, Spell Echo, Zenith, and Zoth Pyre. I don't know how to pronounce this, but I'll explain a bit later why I chose this. Then I have Vulnerability, socketed with Decaying X for a bit of damage, Chaotic Freeze, which allows me to freeze bosses with it, Prolonged Duration, and since I'm not running the node for Double Curse, Whispers of Doom, I'm using the new lineage support at Series Allure, so I can have my vulnerability up on the boss as well as Despair. In this setup, I'm also using Cast on Crit, which is something I haven't seen a lot of people do with the Doedre's Undoing. I'm using Comet in it because I think that's one of the most damaging ability for elites and bosses. Maybe I'm wrong, but you can socket pretty much whatever you want in there. This build does proc cast on crit like an insane amount on elites and bosses, so it doesn't really matter what you socket in there. Then using Boundless Energy for more cast, of course, and energy retention. I'm also using Zenith as well here because I'm playing Blood Mage and I'm not using any mana. So this bonus is always active on everything I have it on. And on the cast on crit Comet, I'm also using the Atalui's Bloodletting, which is the most broken gem in the current patch. It is very very strong, but the problem is it doesn't work on Despair on the Drizzle Doing and Despair. So you cannot build this in your map clearing tool unless you use it on a cast on crits, for example. So here, this is the one that I proc the most, the cast on crit, and I use the Ataloi's Bloodletting in there. It does make my Comet deal a bit more damage. I mean, it is not super massive. Like, it goes from average damage per use 39k to 96k. So, it is something, right? It's not the most insane thing. And then, because I'm using the Zoth Pyre gem, support gem, which is a Breach Lord support gem, I'm also proccing Ignite on my Doedre's Undoing, which allows me to proc cast an elemental ailment. In this, I have the same exact setup as the above, except Atalui's Bloodletting can only be socketed once, so I have Life Tap instead, and I also use Comet. The reason I'm using Soft Pyre is because this is the one that procs the most on bosses, between the shock one and the freeze one. However, in maps, the freeze one is way better, as you're freezing mobs way more often than you're igniting them. I don't know what exactly it is, but there's something that just like makes it so it procs more. So that's basically the gem setup. Passive 3 wise, it is a standard Doedre's Undoing build. I'm going for the energy shield here and here, going for the crit chance, the increase area effect of curses, so I have more coverage. I'm also using the ailment threshold conversion from energy shield, which is pretty massive. Same for stun threshold, plus this also other node for maximum energy shield. We are using the blood transfusion for increased energy regen and increased cost. We are also using Might of the Matter since we don't have any mana cost. This mana is going straight into our HP pool basically, and when it dips, you just press your mana potion to basically like get some HP back, some sort of. Also using the Arcane Surge kit, which is very, very good because you can make it so your Arcane Surge like increase your life regen instead of mana regen, and it also gives you casting speed. This cluster only allows it to proc hit 10% of the time with those two nodes, but it is per target, and since we're like crit capped, it is very, very often up on I mean in maps. On bosses it is like a bit less consistent, but it's like whatever. Like you have a lot of attack speed, so it is up. So taking a jewel, here we're taking the crit damage, then we're like pathing here for Zeal of Oath, which is to make our life regen feeds into our energy shield. As you can see, like here, like we have our health is dipping, and then at some point when we've stacked it enough, it is going back up, and then now all of this like life regen here about like 3k. It is more in maps because you have an Arcane Surge, but this feeds into our energy shield instead. If we go on the other side, I am currently using all this crit and crit damage side. I'm also going for the 25 intelligence and energy shield up there. And I'm pathing for the crit damage, careful assassin. And then the things that I changed compared to other people using this build, I went for the cast on crit and cast on alignment. So I'm not sure if this is the best thing to do, but I invested into dynamism, which is increasing my damage if I procced a skill like via like through the cast on crit or cast on ailment. So and also gives them like energy, which makes them proc more often. It seemed like it's hard to quantify, but it seemed like pretty decent. I've went for the other node for the cast on crit and cast on alignment, which gives me crit when I recently procced something, so it's basically always up, and also give them more energy if I crit recently. And I went for the meta skills of 20% less reservation of spirit, because since I'm using the two of them, it is like pretty like it is like a lot of spirit that is required, 160 for both, and it is pretty hard to meet the spirit requirement. I have like about 61 on my amulet, and that's as much as you can really have outside of getting a corruption on your helmet. Also, the thing I forgot to mention is I'm running the setup with Impending Doom for faster curse activation, and the jewels. Yes, this one with like 14% curse activation, faster curse activation, and this one with 15% curse activation. With this cluster plus the two jewels, you're at 99% faster curse activation. So they are almost instant. Like they're not really instant, but they're like super fast. So you don't have to worry about it. And another way to do this is to use the new boots, the Windscreamer feathered sandals, which basically makes your curses instant. They are also pretty viable. It's just that they are not the best when you try to solve your resistances. Last thing that I forgot to mention, I'm also, of course, using the Tech Rod Undying Hate Timeless Jewel for the node Sacrifice of Blood, which basically increase our skill cost and also gives us a ton of health regen, which is scaled by all the regen percent talent that we have in the tree. And I'm also using a Heart of the World diamond, which gives me 2 line of extra damage. Since we are already scaling the spell damage by quite a bit and chaos by a bit, these seem to be giving the most result. Ideally, you want like another line in there, like maybe instead of the strength threshold, which is useful arguably, but maybe you want crit or cast speed, for example. I currently have 2 extra points in my setup. If I had a third, I would probably be putting it into another jewel socket here, like pathing here and putting 2 points here instead. But right now I can't, so that's not happening. All right. Yeah, Blood Mage wise, I mean it's the standard leech, crit, and HP from the chest plus the grasping wound. Gear wise, I spent most of my currencies trying to improve my gear. So for Doedre's Undoing, you don't have the need for any spell level, so you don't need any of the +5 levels to chaos or whatever. So the wand, for example, is pretty annoying to get because these items are usually not sold. Like most of the items that we want on this build are pretty uncommon and no one is selling them, so they don't exist because they're probably getting rendered or never crafted, or if they're crafted, they're never sold because people think they're worthless. So we want a line of extra damage. Lightning is probably the best, so you can apply shock without having anything else. Then spell damage, chaos damage. And then you want crit chance, crit damage, and cast speed. Maybe later into the game you can, or maybe even now, I'm not even sure, but you can replace maybe one of the lines by intellect if you have enough cast speed or enough crit or enough crit damage. Intellect wouldn't be that bad. Then I have this helmet, which is basically a standard like energy shield helmet with HP, crit, int, and some resistances. I put the gem for 5% increased damage to enemies affected by curse because we are using a curse despair, so they are affected by the curse. I don't know if it affects the first hit or not, but it doesn't really matter because they're dying anyway. I think it's more for like elites and bosses that it matters more. And for the wand, we're using the extra chaos damage socket bonus. Chest, since we are using the body armor conversion, energy shield conversion to HP, we want a chest with as much energy shield as possible. For a 3-socket chest, this is a pretty bad one. A 2-socket chest can already reach more than 1,000 energy shield, so you can get way better than this, but I didn't have the budget. Ideally, you can get yourself intellect on there, and since you're trying to get intellect on every single piece, the other suffixes should most likely be fire, like some resistances and chaos resistances, for example. Very, very, very late game, or if you don't really care about chaos resist, because to be honest, chaos resist is a bit overrated. Like I had like 22% chaos resist for 180 hours, so I feel like it is a bit overrated. I just fixed it at some point just to have it, But the very, very end game, you would probably want a notable instead of the chaos resist here. Like you use there is an essence that puts like a notable on the chest. I think it's this one, yeah, the essence of delirium. This puts a random notable from the tree into it. So this is like super, super, super hand game. Like this is like like tons of divines, like budget. Gloves, same thing. You want energy shield, HP, intellect, resistances. That's pretty much what I have here. And then I went for the cast speed in the rune. Belt is a standard belt. You want maximum life, ideally maximum mana, and then triple res to fix your res. You're gonna see why after. The boots, standard boots, you want movement speed, energy shield, maximum life, and then intellect, of course, and some resistances. The same, it's the same for all these items. And then we have the reason we're stacking, by the way, a lot of HP. We're trying to stack. Like my items are not great, but the reason we're trying to stack a lot of HP is because we have Wrath Pit, Globe, Sacred Focus, which is basically a focus that scales our spell damage and our crit based on our HP. So the more HP you have, the more spell damage you have, and the more crit you have. Here I currently have one that is corrupted and gives, instead of 10% spell damage per 100 life, it gives 12% instead. The very best one would be to also have the 6% crit instead, but this is way out of my budget. Like, just this one is already 20 divine, and the one with like 6% crit, last time I checked, was over 60 divines. And then in the rune, I just put for the maximum life, but you can put whatever you want, probably fixing your res if you don't. If you don't have the budget for the Wrath Pit, you can always use the threaded light woven focus. That's what I used for the longest time, which is basically the spirit conversion to spell damage. And it can be corrupted up to 15% spell damage per 10 spirit. I used the 14% one for the longest time, and I had spirit in my chest and spirit in my amulet, and it was decent enough. Like, the damage was slightly lower than the Wrath Pit, but it clears like most maps anyway. Like, there is no problem for mapping. Then we're going to the rings. The rings, I have a countless touch ring, so basically we are mirroring our other ring. In the ring slot, you want a breach ring that is chaos damage, maximum life. So here I failed and I hit accuracy, but I don't have any more things to like gamble some rings, so I cannot fix it. But I went for here you would want maximum life, then you won't want some res. So here I want chaos res personally for my setup. Intellect, and I went for cast speed. You can probably go for all attributes. It's probably better to go for all attributes, but I didn't hit it, so I went with it. And in the last affix, I think you want, I mean, last time I checked, I wanted, this is the ideal thing, you want this desecrated mod for like 25% increased spell damage while on full energy shield. I think this is very easy to maintain. I haven't hit it, like I haven't managed to hit it, but that's probably what you want. I stuck to the rarity thing. And then for the amulet, you don't really want that. You want spirit implicit if you want the double cast on crit and cast on ailment. So you want a solo amulet with the 50 spirit buff. Then instead of evasion, you would want maximum HP life. I mean, and instead of spell damage here, you would want 8% maximum life, because this is actually very, very strong. It will give you a lot of HP. Then you want all attribute. Intellect, here I unfortunately rolled strength. The problem with these kinds of items, like I said, is that they don't exist, so you have to craft them. And when you roll for attributes with homogenization, or even the catalyst attribute omen, you are at the mercy of RNG and you need to hit the right one. So attribute can be either strength, int, dexterity, or all attribute. So it is very, very hard to roll. And then on top of that, you want the 12% increased intellect, which is coming from this. I don't have one anymore. I actually used them all. Let me see. We probably have one here. Yeah, the perfect essence of the infinite. This is an essence that is removing an affix from your item and then putting another one. Unfortunately, it is not all three at the same time. It is only one of them, and it is random. So you have every time you want to craft an item like this one, you have a 1 in 3 chance to hit intellect. So it is very, very annoying because, like I said, the bases don't exist. Like you will have a very, very hard time to find items to craft on. And even if you find them, you need to hit a 1 in 3 chance for the essence and a 1 in 2 chance for the attribute. And then you need to hit the max life and maximum life, which is like almost impossible, to be honest. I sunk like so many like currencies in there, like trying to re-roll the desecrated mod, but I unfortunately ran out of money. So this is my current setup, and this with this setup I'm reaching 618 intellect, and my resistances are pretty much capped. If I had the ideal gear setup, I would probably be reaching 700 intellect most likely, and I would have probably about 600 more HP or even 700 more HP. So that's more spell damage and more crit from the Wrath Pit, and also more int equal more scaling on the Doedre's undoing. Last thing you would want is, of course, a 6% crit here on the Wrath Pit to get done with it. And then at that point, maybe you have a bit too much crit, so you can probably like unspec into some crit and get some more damage if you can or if you want. For anointment in the amulet, I went with full recovery for 15% increased life regen. I'm not sure this is the best. I am convinced this is not the best, but like the regen is not mandatory. It is very good to get your build rolling and not get killed before your regen kicks in because it takes a bit to stack up. But I wanted to get spaghettification, but it is actually pretty expensive to get, and I don't. I mean, it's 13 all attribute, 29% chaos damage, and 3% movement speed. This node is pretty good. I think I would go for this if I had a choice. I mean, I can probably do it right now because I've vended some stuff, but it is whatever. It won't make such a big difference anyway. Alright. Last thing that I wanted to say, um, this build can do all the maps, like no matter what, in even the bosses, with very, very minimal gear. And you are extremely tanky. You are never at risk of dying on Zest 3, for example. And King of the Mist is a bit scary, but he will not kill you. This is my old gear that I've used for the past like 120 hours, and this cost me 2 div total. So I have the boots for instant curse activations. These are like super cheap. I had like this belt, which is like a double res belt, strength and maximum life. It is a super bad belt. I used that for the longest time. I use these gloves, which have like double res int, which are super like they have like pretty good walls for the int, the res, and the maximum life, but then they have a an hybrid like energy shield maximum life and then like some fizz attack damage roll, whatever. Like it's whatever, right? I used this chest for super long uh, before before I had the good amulet. This body armor, sorry, with the spirit, because before I was, like I said, I was using the threaded light focus instead. Helmet is just int, res, HP, energy shield, no big deal. being where just to fix the resistances, I had a bit of chaos damage and a bit of int and a bit of cast speed. And then the second one was basically chaos damage, maximum life or attribute int, and some resistances. Both have like some useless lines on it, like for example here lightning damage, and here there's like cold damage to attacks. These are pretty much completely useless. And then I was using this amulet, which is a double crit energy shield and rarity amulet plus spirit. So very very cheap. If you have the boots, you don't need the jewels for faster curse activation. So basically, I went with these, which are chaos damage, crit or crit damage, cast speed, and then I have like presence area of effect, but this is pretty much useless with this setup because we are not using withered anymore, without presence anymore. So you can have whatever. I just happen to buy some that had all the same one, but the presence affix is completely irrelevant and useless. So there you go. I hope you enjoy. And we'll see if we can do something with this build in maybe the next patch, the 0.4, when they add like some relevant endgame content. Right, if you have any question, feel free to ask in the comment, and see you around.